I'm Yvonne Yang, and here's what happened this week. In Taiwan, if you publicly insult someone, even by swearing at them, you could face up to a year in prison or a fine of up to around $3,000. Now, Taiwan's constitutional court is debating whether this is an unreasonable barrier to free speech. To find out more, our reporter Louis Watt spoke to Michael Fahey, a Taipei-based legal consultant.
What is Taiwan's public insult law?
Well, Taiwan's public insult law is a criminal prohibition on insulting someone in public. So, for example, if you called someone a jerk, or the Chinese equivalent of a word that means kind of like brute or animal, 畜生, you could be convicted of public insult. It's intended to protect the citizens' interest in not having their dignity affronted in public by being insulted. If you don't want a criminal record, somebody might be able to extract a settlement out of you in exchange for dropping the charges. So it's not nothing. It can be a way to harass people. That's one criticism of it.
Why is the Constitutional Court debating this law now?
There have been complaints for many years that this is an annoyance and sort of not in keeping with Taiwan as a free and democratic society. I think it may be related to Taiwan, like everywhere else, is dealing with a lot of difficult questions about how do we regulate speech, especially online in a time of misinformation and hate speech and things like this, without unnecessarily burdening freedom of expression at the time. So I think the court thought that this would be a good time to take up one aspect of that much larger problem.
Who generally gets caught up in these kinds of cases? Who's bringing these suits and who's being accused?
I think the typical case would be two neighbors who get into an argument about something, or somebody at a meeting of a property management association in a large community who gets mad and, tells off the chairman of the meeting. Or perhaps a foreigner who gets, a close call in heavy traffic and yells something in English, a bad word and a curse word in English, which maybe is just an exclamation. But it's important to realize that the Chinese for this gongran wu means a public humiliation offense. So it's not just that you're insulting somebody, it's that you're publicly humiliating them.
What are the arguments in favor of keeping the law as it is?
I think it's just generally thought that, if people don't insult each other all the time, maybe there'll be less fights and we'll just live in a kinder, gentler society. And we don't want to see people insulting people online.
That was Michael Fahey, a Taipei-based legal consultant, speaking to Louis Watt. The court's ruling on the public insult law is expected within 3 months. Indonesians working in Taiwan's fishing fleet launched a campaign demanding mandatory Wi-Fi on all vessels. They've been working hard all year to achieve that goal. Eugene Huang has their story.
Ya udah. Taruh aja di sepeda, gantung di jok pintu.
Thousands of miles from home, Nofian Kubalang needs this daily phone call with his family to help forget the weariness from work. He's working in Taiwan because he can earn more here to better support his family.
Saya punya anak, mereka lagi sekolah, lagi kuliah, membutuhkan biaya yang besar. Ekonomi Indonesia juga mungkin kalau kerja di Indonesia saya nggak mampu menyalurkan mereka. Makanya dengan bekerja di sini, dan saya membuktikan bahwa saya mampu menyekolahkan anak-anak. Tujuan saya hanya bisa bahagiakan anak-anak aja.
These calls home used to be a luxury when he worked on a vessel that would go long periods without any contact with the outside world. Understanding the negative effects of being isolated in distant waters, Kubalang helped launch the Wi-Fi for Fishers at Sea campaign, calling for the Taiwanese government to make Wi-Fi mandatory on all vessels.
Karena pengalaman selama ini kan saya pernah juga sampai lebih 10 bulan. Kita juga kadang kalau nggak ada komunikasi itu fish mandis kita itu benar-benar terganggu. Fisik, mental, dan spiritual kita itu merasa goncang banget. Karena sudah capeknya kerja.
Kubalang is the vice chair of Indonesian Seafarers Gathering Forum, or FOSBI, which launched the Wi-Fi campaign in February. Established by Indonesian fishers to look after each other's interests, the 17-year-old organization plays a big part in their lives in the coastal township of Donggang in southern Taiwan. It offers a Muslim prayer space, holds activities to mark Indonesian holidays, and helps handle all kinds of work-related issues. Based on the complaints they've received, FOSBI leaders believe that Wi-Fi is necessary, not only to relieve fishers' homesickness, but also to help with other issues.
Dan mungkin juga ada isu yang lain seperti mungkin kecelakaan kerja juga ya kan, yang telat menanganinya dan akhirnya sampai fatal, mungkin cacat sampai karena keterbatasan medis, akhirnya kan sampai cacat. Banyak yang curhat sharing ke FOSBI.
Taiwan has over 1,100 distant water fishing vessels, the second largest fleet in the world. For over a decade, their crew have mostly come from Southeast Asian countries. Among the 20,000 foreign fishers, more than half are from Indonesia. The next largest group comes from the Philippines, followed by Vietnam and other countries. The international community has long been concerned about Taiwan's treatment of foreign fishers. In 2022, the U.S. government added Taiwan's seafood products to its list of goods produced by child labor or forced labor for the second time. That could stop big corporates like Walmart or Costco from importing seafood from Taiwan. And the U.S. Department of Labor is paying close attention to the Wi-Fi campaign.
And just that I had it right, that it was 40 fishers that hadn't been paid for 11 months, you said?
Also on this video call is the American NGO, Global Labor Justice, International Labor Rights Forum, which helped FOSBI set up the campaign and find local and international allies.
Although things have improved, there is really very little monitoring of what's happening. And the biggest problem is that fishers themselves don't have the infrastructure to be able to exercise their fundamental labor rights if they cannot communicate to the outside.
Taiwan's government has introduced measures to improve conditions for crews, with the launch of its Fishery and Human Rights Action last year. That includes Wi-Fi subsidies. And after talking with industry stakeholders over 20 times during the past year, the Fisheries Agency has adjusted its focus.
我们在今年的7月25号也有重新调整核定这个行动计划。那新的核定计划呢，我们会从明年开始会特别着重在通讯权跟船员的安全这2大主轴来持续的在强化执行。
The government wants to show its commitment to fishers and human rights groups. In September, Premier Chen Jianren met with FOSBI leaders and NGO workers. It was the first time a top government official sat down with fishers to hear first-hand accounts of working at sea. While optimistic about moving the industry forward, the campaigners also know that change won't be immediate, because vessel owners also have to be convinced. Kamashi, Klein Wang, Edmund, Lichi Zhang, and Yujin Huang for TaiwanPlus.
That was part 1 of our special report on Indonesian fishers' campaign for Wi-Fi access while out at sea. You can find part 2 on our website, TaiwanPlus.com. If you are a die-hard meat eater, this story may not be for you. A new veggie product has hit the streets of Taiwan. Sally Jensen takes a look.
The kind of marbling you only see on animal flesh. But what if we told you these so-called meats are made from mushrooms? Research scientists and the private sector in Taiwan have developed this edible mycoprotein, a sort of fake meat made from fungus. And it's a big hit among first-time tasters.
感觉不出来它是素食的，对，真的像真的肉一样。它口感比市面上鸡米花再更扎实一点，然后吃起来没有说那么油。
Using 3D printing technology, the texture and taste of this fungi-based fake meat can be achieved in just 3 days. Compare that to the 7 months, massive amounts of water, land and feed it takes to raise a pig, only to send it to the chopping block for a potentially cancer-causing roast dinner. Schools are joining in with industry on this new 3D printed mycoprotein trend, adding veganized items like ice cream, popcorn chicken and hot dogs to the menu.
我们现在把它应用到连冰淇淋都在做，还有做面包、做烘焙。
For those who are already veggie, mycoprotein may not be much more than a fun new option. But for hardcore meat eaters, it's a kinder, healthier alternative to the often harmful food products they know and love. Ryan Wu and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
One of Taipei's main tourist attractions, the National Palace Museum, marks the holiday period with some very special guests. Our reporter Sunny Chi went to have a look.
An emperor and a Ming Dynasty soldier. Not something you see every day. But for one night only, there's special guests at a museum in Taipei. It's the National Palace Museum's Night of Revelry costume party. And visitors have pulled out all the stops.
我穿的是道袍，对，那这个道袍跟我们做法事的那个道袍不一样，它是那个明代，就是算相当于我们现在男生西装的这个意思。
It's the 3rd year this event has been held, and over 3,000 visitors have dressed up in traditional garb to tour the museum.
故宫其实它就是一个中华文化的一个宝库。那当我们呢，故宫要展示的时候呢，我们当然很希望就是有民间的一个参与。那尤其呢，参访者他能穿的古代的衣服来参访古代的用品、古代的启蒙呢，然后伴随着古代的音乐，观赏古代的。 那一些画，然后站在那里呢，形成一个非常好的一个构图。
I think it's amazing because it's a National Palace Museum, so we're surrounded by art, by history, and a lot of people are wearing different traditional dresses, and it's amazing to see.
有一点觉得很不切实际，但是我又会觉得很神奇，因为这边就让我有点穿梭在现代跟古代的感觉。
This year's event is inspired by the Ming Dynasty painting, Spring Dawn in the Han Palace, which features court music performances, officials, civil servants, and concubines. It was painted by artist Qiu Ying in the 16th century.
Besides admiring ancient artifacts, taking photos, and enjoying a variety of shows, artists here have added a final touch to the event, sketching portraits of visitors for them to take home as souvenirs.
They are art students from a prestigious art school in Taipei, and they each sketched 16 visitors. Quite a challenge considering the time limit.
超可爱，超漂亮的，你看，比本人还可爱。
那请问花多少时间画出来的？
好像8分钟嘛，超厉害的，马上现场。
The National Palace Museum has long been one of Taipei's main tourist attractions, but it's been drawing even more visitors since the pandemic. And events like these show just how much enthusiasm there still is for ancient art and culture. Patrick Chen and Sunny Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. If you like what you saw, you can visit the TaiwanPlus website or our social media. Finally, check out these animals in the snow at Ranua Wildlife Park in Finland. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.